Hello everyone, it's Dylan from Yugioh Everything, and welcome back to another Yu-Gi-Oh! Go Rush episode review. This time we will be reviewing episode 37 of Yu-Gi-Oh! Go Rush, the duel between Zwijo and Yuhi, our penultimate duel, if you will, right before the Arc 3 finale duel, which is going to be insane. But obviously, before we get to episodes 38 and 39, we have to talk about episode 37. And generally speaking, what did I think about 37? I quite enjoyed it. I thought the dueling action was really good. I was hoping that the dialogue between Zwijo and Yuhi was going to be a little more personal than we got. We did get a couple of really cool moments where Zwijo was kind of smiling and saying, so this is the extent of your power, at least in his own head, as Yuhi was comboing off on his second turn. But we didn't get any real deep conversation between the two of them, seeing how, what happened at the end of Arc 1 with the Earth Damar. So I was kind of expecting a little bit more dialogue heaviness when it came to Zwijo and Yuhi directly. But outside of that, I thought the duel and the episode in general was pretty entertaining. The Lug immediately calms down. He starts eating his tangerines, and he's doing that like, she loves me not, as you do with like rose petals, and then whatever rose petal it lands on, it's like, oh, she loves me, or oh, she doesn't love me. It's a very young school kid thing, at least that I associate it with. That happens, and I feel like that makes sense for the Lug. He is a character that we now know is the center, the singularity point of all negative energy in this universe, and if he gets upset, depressed, angry, his emotions can literally lead to the end of the entire universe. It's already led to the end of planets and maybe even galaxies, and that in itself is absolutely terrifying. There was a really interesting line, though, that the Providence had when it came to the negative energy that the Lug had wiping out everything. And when the Lug calmed down, everything started to stabilize again. That was fading out at the end of episode 36, like the Meeg-chan magazine, like the Mr. Universe manga panel that Yuhi was holding. The Providence, when Yuhi asks if rush duels will eventually be consumed by the negative energy, the Providence says eventually, but there's a very strong positive energy protecting rush duels, which I think are interesting. It might not be too much, but obviously if there's a singularity point of negativity in the universe, and that being the Lug, you would have to imagine that a character is the singularity of positivity. Could that be Yugioh, who maybe created rush duels or brought rush duels to this universe? Could it be Yugioh? I don't know, but I thought it was very interesting that there was so much positive energy protecting rush duels, and I do think because it was specifically stated that way, that could be foreshadowing who is that singularity point of positive energy. So just keep that in mind going forward. I thought that was very, very fascinating. But, we learn about Zwijo's plans right away. They ask Zwijo why he set the Lug off like that, and Zwijo, he's been consistent, and I feel like we are finally getting a good pain-in-the-butt antagonist and villain character that Studio Bridge has not really given to us. How many villains have we gotten, quote-unquote villains, where within the same arc or at the end of an arc or right after the arc ends where they're the villain, they join the good team. They have a complete change of heart, or they weren't really that evil, and they join our heroes. Well, Zwijo was the villain in that first arc, and here in episode 37, almost 24 episodes after that first arc ended, he is still on his same motivation, which is, I don't care what cost the universe must suffer, or what cost the planet or people must suffer, as long as I get power to win the war on Velgear. And I'm starting to wonder if Zwijo is getting to a point where he doesn't even really care about winning the war on Velgear anymore. I don't know if that's just what he's saying, and maybe he thinks that that's what he's doing this for, but I'm starting to get some real, crazed, power-hungry vibes from Zwijo. So at what point does Zwijo take a step back and say, all right, this is a little too much. This is out of control, because we've seen the Lug lose his mind at the end of 36, and here at the end of 37, and Zwijo is maniacally smiling and enjoying every second of it. And that, to me, is the sign of a very power-hungry character that will stop at no lengths in order to get what he wants and in order to achieve what he wants. So I absolutely loved that they doubled down on Zwijo's character here. I loved that he kept that same fire, that same passion, that same antagonistic value that we saw when he was merging with his monster, when he used the Earth Damar, right, in the duel against Yugioh, episodes 12 and 13. That is something that Studio Bridge has not given to us all that much. Villains or evil characters that, or threats I should say, because I don't want to call him an evil or villainous character, although you can definitely make that argument at this point, but characters that are threats to our main crew that go beyond their debut arc. That is very exciting, and I think that's a very good sign for the show going forward, because the Lug, well, he just can't control his powers, and what sets him off at the end of this episode is Zwijo reminds him that his Mr. Universe show, or his Mr. Universe manga, I should say, is getting an anime adaptation, and they're going to show it on TV, and it seems that it was replaced by the Mig-chan episode that the whole crew made back in episode 27 when this arc first began. So again, this studio loves doing filler episodes, or seemingly nonsensical filler episodes, and making them super relevant and super important down the line. I mean, that is absolutely insane. It's almost like when Kaizo foreshadowed Maximum, and I believe that was episode 14 of Sevens in the Roman Curry episode, and there were a few other really interesting foreshadow elements that they did in that episode, and most of the episodes that kick off the arcs are just that. They're silly, goofy, seemingly harmless filler episodes, but by the team making this Mig-chan episode and getting it produced, they have potentially upset the Great King of Terror to a point beyond repair, and Zwijo weaponizes that episode in order to get the Lug to be very angry and upset again. He says, hey, your show or your manga, your story was so boring that they canceled it for this Mig-chan episode. And maybe that wasn't the case. Maybe the Mig-chan episode was just super good and super good in the ratings, and it was just one of those things where Mr. Universe was going to air in a different time slot. But obviously, you know, we don't know that. If Zwijo knows that, he's not going to tell the Lug that, because he's basically a ticking time bomb. And the Lug starts losing his mind right as Zwijo takes his final turn. The duel was really, really interesting. Yuhi obviously playing ace monsters like Hero. You had Zwijo playing Requiem again, which was awesome. Zwijo using an equip spell for the first time, I believe for the first time in a duel, unless he used it against Yuumu. Actually, I think he did use one against Yuumu, but definitely using Fusion for the first time. And everyone asks, where the hell did he get that from? The Providence quickly figures it out. Zwijo picked up the Fusion card that Neanderstar used against Manabu a few weeks ago, or a few episodes ago, when he was hiding behind the scenes. Picked it up, added it to his deck, and that's the type of character he is. He will do anything he can to become more powerful, to become stronger. And by the way, this is right after Yuhi gives a great speech about how no matter how many times you knock me down, no matter how many times you discourage me or I get discouraged, I will always get back up, I will always fight, and I will always duel. That's true strength. True strength is in perseverance and empathy, not greed. That's kind of what I took from it. Yuhi, I know, didn't go that far with the statement, but I love it. It was clashing ideologies to a degree as to what true power is, and that's a genuine debate that people on Earth, you know, in real life will have. You know, what is true power? And I think that's really, really fascinating. And then Zwijo, what a badass statement, man, to say, all right, those were your final words. I hope you have no regrets. And then goes into what ends up being his final turn and defeats Yuhi and basically tries to command the Great King of Terror to freeze and subsequently eliminate Yuumu, Yugioh, and Yuhi, which I thought was really, really vicious on his end. And again, just shows that power hungriness that I think Zwijo has obtained. Before we get to that and all the deaths that we had in this episode, or the freezing, I know I call them deaths. It's the same thing in Arc 5. A character gets carded. We know they can get revived. But to me, that character is dead. They're no longer alive. They're no longer conscious in the living, breathing world. It's the same concept here, in my opinion. So when I say a character is getting killed off, obviously these characters are going to come back. They normally do in Yu-Gi-Oh! They normally do in Shonen. But I do believe it's equatable to that whole killing off a character thing that we've seen in previous Yu-Gi-Oh! Shows. Zwijo set Dark Hole, and Yuhi eliminated it. He popped it by using one of his, I think it was a trap or a monster effect, I can't remember. And everyone was very relieved when he got rid of Dark Hole, but I thought about it and I'm like, why is he setting Dark Hole? Dark Hole is a spell card. Why would he set Dark Hole? Well, he set Dark Hole really to bait Yuhi because he wanted Dark Hole in the grave so that he could use his new Fusion Ace Monsters effect to get Dark Hole back to his hand. He activated Dark Hole. We all know what Dark Hole does. Wiped all the monsters from the field of play, except his Fusion Monster, because his Fusion Monster cannot be destroyed by card effects. So great synergy between that monster and a card like Dark Hole, which board wipes everything. The direct attack lands, and Zwijo commands the Lug to try to eliminate Yuhi, Yuumu, and Udius. Before this happens, we see the Providence get frozen, Manabu, Bochi the dog, Manya, literally all four of those characters immediately get killed off. Very, very quickly, frozen out of the picture, which was crazy. And the nutty thing at the end of this episode, it's like Indiana Jones, man. Don't look in the box. Your face is going to melt. They all start looking at the manga script. And the very end of this episode, we can see the ice. It's up to about their ankles or about their knees. Udius, Yuhi, and Yuumu, the process has begun of them getting frozen. And if they get frozen, I don't know if there is anything left for us to hope for in this universe. I feel like that is game over. Now, thankfully, we know that there still is hope because of the summaries, because of what's going to happen in episode 38, and because of the preview. We see Udius teaming up with Go Hyuna, who is going to faint at some point in this duel, a la Yuga. Remember, Yuga was working on a card in sevens, was exhausted, fainted in his Go Hyuga duel when Luke took over. Kind of get similar vibes from that. I even said that when we got the summaries. Kind of getting similar vibes from that, so that's cool. But next episode is going to be great, and this episode overall thought was really good, and I am super excited to see how this arc is going to come to an end. But guys, let me know your thoughts on episode 37. Let me know your thoughts on Zwijo so far, and any predictions or things you want to see as we move forward towards the end of the third Yu-Gi-Oh! 7's arc. Thank you guys all so much for watching. A special thank you to my Platinum tier patron, Panther J, to my Diamond tier patrons, Latrell Smith and Jesse Woods, and to my Egyptian God tier patron, Pink Penguin. Thank you to everyone who supports me on Patreon and whoever is a YouTube channel member. You guys help me out so much. And if you want some exclusive channel perks, definitely check out both of those sites and features. Be sure to check out my channel for more Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime content. And until next time, I hope you have an amazing day. Take care, guys.